Hello and welcome to this Friday edition of the Angela Ray Show. I hope that you are doing well, that you have had a great day and an even greater week. We are done with week one of the second season of the Angela Ray Show. Thank you so much to everyone who have come through and given words of support. I really appreciate you all. For all of you who will be catching this broadcast on the replay, thank you so much for taking the time to leave comments, share the broadcast. I definitely appreciate your support. For my live viewers, those of you who've been like, wait a minute, it's 8 o'clock. We're ready to see this Friday edition of the show. Go ahead and do me a favor, slide into the comments and let me know what you are doing on this weekend. Of course, for a lot of this week, we have been highlighting and featuring poets in lieu of the Ray of Motivation moment that has been a part of the Angela Ray Show. And that has been to recognize National Poetry Month. You know, poetry is near and dear to my heart. I don't think I've actually shared a poem on this show thus far, but that's going to change tonight. But poetry is definitely near and dear to my heart. I started writing at the age of 12. I promise you those poems were bad, but decided to take the craft a little more seriously once I got to college and took a poetry writing class and then continued with writing poetry on and off throughout my time after college, and then eventually published my first book. And of course, spoken word, the art of performance poetry, has really gotten a major lift in terms of profile thanks to Miss Amanda Gorman and her poem that was presented at the inauguration back in January. And so there has been a renewed interest in spoken word, in those who put pen to paper to pursue their passion in a poetic way. And I am just glad to be a part of that community, although I have not been as active in the spoken word cafes and lounges as I used to be. I definitely love to sit back, relax, enjoy another wordsmith doing their thing, you know, get my little snaps up whenever possible, and then on occasion, sharing some words of my own. So for tonight, I was trying to think about like, what would I want to share? I had no idea. And I was thinking about a poem that was often requested back when I used to go to the poetry slams when I was driving all up and down I-85, I-95, going from state to state and competing. One of the poems that was often requested was a poem called Take Me Back. And I have not done it in forever. So, yeah, we're going to be on book just a little bit tonight. Take me back to the days of Friday fish fries, Saturday afternoons getting your hair straightened for church, and partying Sunday night in the club owned by your uncle, grubbing on oxtails and pig's feet until granddaddy gets drunk and starts shooting and runs everyone away. Or Mr. Henry, stopping by to get that 50-cent shot of liquor. After school, sitting around watching and experiencing good times, different strokes, and the facts of life. Take me back to the summertime, playing with your cousins. Mother May, I hopscotch 1, 2, 3, red light, color outside and says Jack rocks, or when daddy got paid, it was the lemon twist you played. Or how about grandma's homemade biscuits with those sweet, thick molasses, real grits cooked in a pot with that air dried sausage and fried green tomatoes? Take me back to the days of making money before you were old enough to work, picking peas, butter beans, selling frozen cups and lemonade, or helping with the chicken plates your aunt made. Remember summer afternoons? Eating sugar babies, priming pumps to get a drink of water, picking plums, blackberries, eating sour weeds, and finding honeysuckles. Take me back to the days of granddaddy killing the hog on Friday so we could have bacon on Sunday. While grandma run the neck on the chicken and Aunt Lulabelle shelled peas and Uncle Ray Ray, he was finishing the moonshine that all the men would drink that night. Think back to the days of community closeness, quality family time, Cadillac, sideburns, Shaft, and Michael Jackson when he had his real nose, his real chin, and he was still black. Take me back to the days of hide and go get it. Knowing who was going to get it because you hear where he got it the last time. Reminisce on the days of sacred living rooms where plastic and sheets adorned the furniture, and to step inside was to step out of line. Take me back to the days when children respected their parents and their elders, when they picked their own switches, appreciated gifts, and were responsible for chores. Take me back to the days when prayer in school wasn't against the rules, when beating your child's tail wouldn't land you in jail. Take me back. Take me back because today there's something we lack. Today it's all about crack and cream, smoking the guy who's on their team, or sporting the new Jordans and Tims, pushing a fat ride with rims, FUBU, leather, and woo wear, cursing at our parents like we don't care, skipping school to sell bags of weed, destroying our bodies by scattering our seed, awakening the ancestors who rocked the boat when we take for granted the right to vote, peddling guns that kill our own 5 baby mamas without a good home. We need to go back. Take me back. Take me back before thugs were worshipped as to max. I mean, today we give our money at the rap shows while the artists call women freaks and hoes. We trade in food stamps to buy a new outfit while our children are hungry and sick. Making money by performing blows, equating love with a bloody nose, going to the doctor to suck out that life so we can still party every Saturday night, giving of our spirits before commitments, carrying a sign that reads booty for rent. We need to go back. Take me back. I want to go back. We need to go back. We should go back. We have to go back to move forward. We got to go back to move forward. Again, that is Take Me Back, and it is from this little book called Blackberry Whispers. And I will say that when I thought about the time that many of us spent at home, shout out to the essential workers who never had their schedule changed last year because of the pandemic. But many of us, while we were at home, we had an opportunity to, if we took advantage of it, to go back to some simpler times, to eating dinner together as a family, to spending time together, and really being able to establish close relationships and get together as a community. So take me back. Again, this is National Poetry Month, and for me, it is so important to provide platforms as well as support those independent artists who are doing what they do because they love what they do. And tonight is no different. So, tonight, I have the pleasure of having in the hot seat Mr. Keon Furnace. He was born and raised in Los Angeles, but these days he calls North Carolina home. He has performed throughout the Southeast, and he has a book called After the Snap. That was his first book that he published in 2016. But he also has some other great things that he's going to share with us tonight. So please help me welcome Keon Furnace. Keon, thank you so much for being on the Angela Ray Show tonight.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate the platform.
Okay. Do you know, is that Rashiki? Rashaki? Rashaka, okay. My bad. I didn't mean to mess that up. I didn't mean to mess that up. My bad.
That is my better half.
Oh, well, I definitely didn't mean to mess that up. That's better half. Not at all. So, I was reading some of your story, some of the challenges that you face coming to like a fork in the road, if you will. Talk a little bit about that journey before we get into your poetry.
Yeah, so my poetry has always been kind of the designs of, listening to R&B, soul music, that good music, our parents' record player. I'm a record collector these days now because it takes me back. Like you said, taking me back.
Yeah, that record players. I should have had that in there.
Yeah.
Taking me back to the record players because you hear that little sound of a song is about to get on.
So, I've always found poetry as the centering piece in my world. Whenever I can't figure it out, I go to the pad and the pen, or nowadays the phone or the tablet, whatever is close. And I went through a divorce in 2012. And the poetry was a period in my life that I had forgotten about. And it took that critical time in my, I say it was a depression, to ground myself, pick myself up off the ground, and then move forward. And poetry is something that I've always used to steady myself. So I pen the poems each day instead of feeling sorry for myself. When I was unsure, uncertain, I wrote. If I was melancholy or forlorn, I would write. Anytime that I thought about the situation and felt helpless, I would write. So while we were on the pandemic, actually the book was published in June of last year. The book is coming up on its year anniversary. And what I had time to do, like most people during the pandemic, was, figure out, what the world could use. You know what I mean? How can I help people? Because a lot of people were dealing with heartache and were alone. Maybe they had to quarantine by themselves. So I thought about some of the loneliest times of my life, and it was during that period. So I assembled a volume of the poetry from that era, and I fashioned it into a book. And now After the Snap was born.
Awesome. And so I read in one of your bios or on one of the websites where you profiled that when you fell into this depression, you felt like maybe you should have gone to therapy, but you didn't. And it seems like the poetry and the writing became therapeutic for you. Would that be accurate?
Yes, that's exactly what happened. I actually started a Facebook page opposite of my personal page, and I put those poems on there, and that immediate feedback from friends and poetry consumers, that was steadying me. That was propping me back up. That was telling me that I had value. That was giving me light, giving me hope. And I think I write best when I'm writing hopeful poetry. So though some of the stuff in my book was definitely some melancholy, often like to also, I fashion myself a hopeful romantic. And I think that comes across a lot in my poetry as well.
Okay. So you're going to share something with us
Yeah,
tonight.
yeah. So
Okay.
I'm going to read some from the book. And then I had two special pieces that were actually, I'll tell you a little bit more about them also. Those are pieces that are kind of brand new, but there were some people probably working through some things that they kind of posted, and they didn't even realize that they were inspiring me. When
Oh, wow. Okay.
so I'm gonna start with two of my pieces. So again, the book is really a healing. It's my breadcrumbs for how I made it back to health, and how I found love again. And this is the first of 3 volumes that will paint the picture of how I use poetry to really describe the happy ending that I'm experiencing now. So the first piece is called Broken. Can you break something that's already broken? With Pandora's box already open, you never know what is liable to happen. On the turbulent seas of love, you might accidentally unleash the Kraken. I am out and I am open. I'm silent, but I'm spoken. Asleep till I am woken. Well put together, but yet I am broken.
All right.
And that piece was inspired by having to put on the mask that we wear every day.
Yeah.
I was working in a school, and I remember those moments alone. I would think about my situation and my plight, but then when I saw the robust, hearty laughter of kids being kids, my mind didn't think about it as much. And it wasn't until I'm back alone, sullen, sulking some days, But as I went on in my journey, I began to find strength, and I wrote that piece just as an ode to the mask that we all wear. People are always dealing with things, and are you never know what someone's going through. And I was a very trying time in my development as a man, but I was very careful not to bring it outside with me. I wore the mask every day at work.
Yeah,
So,
there's a poem called "We Wear the Mask."
yeah,
I can't. Is it James Weldon Johnson or I can't remember who wrote it, but I feel like it was one of the
yeah,
Harlem Renaissance
yeah,
poets.
yeah.
Wear
It's
the
from that
mask.
period. It is.
Yeah. You have a question before you get into your next poem, and I'll read it for you. I love the title, After the Snap, a Black man talking about his depression. That's not the norm. How would you advise people, particularly men of color, to recover after the snap? And that question is from Edwin, who is one of our very loyal viewers here at the Angela Ray Show.
Thank you, Edwin. Well, it's funny because I'm also a big Marvel movie fan. So the After the Snap was also an ode to Thanos snapping the world, half the planet into, oblivion.
Okay.
So
Uh-huh.
I felt that was a parallel to what happens when you have heartache. And men don't necessarily always feel comfortable. Usually we drink it away. We do something more destructive when we have pain like this, or we hold it in, which is extremely harmful for your whole body. So I would advise men of color to journal. Not everyone's a poet. I would advise them to spend more time in those hobbies, those things that center you, that ground you.
Right.
Allow yourself to be loved on. My mother was so important to me. She told me straight up, she no chaser. She loved on me when it was time for me to, lay on her shoulder. And she lives way across the country, but just from those phone calls, hugging on your mother through the phone, she allowed me to vent and to have someone. So I would definitely encourage men to, if you've got someone in your corner, allow them to love on you, journal, spend time in your hobbies, and pray. If you have a relationship with the Most High, please, do that. And then also therapy. If you have a provider that you would like to get some counseling, some therapy, that helps too. Now, I did not, like you mentioned earlier, but I did have my poetry, and I had the feedback, and I have a very supportive love circle who just poured into me during that time.
Okay. All right. So what's next?
Okay. So another piece from the book is called "Who Blew Our Flame Out?" And I kind of describe it after the poem. Who blew our flame out? Where did all the time go? When did we know? Who was the first to know? How did we end up here? Indifferent, separate, flame blew out and desperate to find some sanity. Just a little part of what used to be. I'm trying to peel the layers of leftover you off of me. What a mess we made, looking at the photo album, wondering, when will the memories fade?
Mm.
Yeah, so that one was looking at old pictures one day,
That'll take you some places when you look at them old pictures.
Yeah, what to throw away, what to keep. Because I was always teetering about not being bitter about this whole thing. I was, and the last piece I read from my book, for if I have time, I go into something a little more current. I was, trying not to look on social media, trying to unfriend those couple friends that you met that are more, her side of the family, and that piece just kind of spoke to me, as a, it kind of wrote itself. The poems during this era of my life, and like really most of my poems, they write themselves. Poetry just calls you to a place where you have to be still and obedient, and then let your imagination and your creativity do the rest.
Okay. All
So
right, what's your last piece?
last piece from the book is special to me because it really sets the table for healing. And I
Mm-hmm.
put it last. I'm not sure where in my journey, when in my journey I wrote this, but I put it last in the book just to really punctuate, what I hope, especially men take forward, from picking up the book and reading it. And it's called She Moves On First. So I'm asking the question, what if she moves on
Okay, then.
first? All right. She moves on first. I have prayed for her grieving, thinking she might be mourning me. Till one day, I did a search on Facebook and was surprised to see, at first glance, a couple's picture under a tree. I was floored by the intimacy. They looked in love, and I was pierced deeply. In the core of my belly, I guess I have a revisionist view of history. That's when I discovered I was praying for her misery, not her recovery. The big thing for me to do is to wish her to be happy. Instead, I was keeping her in my own memory, deep, dark, sullen, a prisoner of our unholy ending to our matrimony. It's so phony, so not sweet, so not sincere, so selfish of me. When I give my prayer to God, it's for her total recovery, even if it had to come at the expense of me.
Wow. That's probably later in your journey. I'm guessing.
Yeah, yeah. Because I remember like scrolling, I suggested friends come up and I may have even typed their name in. I'm probably leaning towards that was the scenario. And you know how there are a million people when you have a common name. I keep names out to protect the innocent. But when the name was
Right.
in the search engine, 100 of them came up, and I clicked on a few of the pictures, and some looked, like it could have been her, and at first my heart sunk, but then I think I sobered up a lot later when I was ready to put pen to paper. And I was like, and so what if she moves on? If she's happy, good. Focus on your happiness next and allow her to go on and be gracious. I pride myself on being a gracious loser and winner. So that piece was my conciliatory writing towards that era in my life.
Now, in addition to just having your book, you've also performed your poetry at a number of places in Durham, various places in the Triangle, as well as in Charlotte. Talk a little bit about that, performing even before your book was ready to come out.
Yeah, so actually getting out there was another part of my healing, and my love story with my wife, who at the time had just moved to North Carolina and was studying and readying herself for her next chapter after moving on from a relationship. So I reached out to alumni because my wife and I went to college 20 years prior at our alma mater, Wilberforce University. The nation's oldest HBCU in Ohio. And when I found out she was close, she was here in the Triangle, and I was living in Charlotte at the time. And I was taking my poetry to the stage, kind of like my one-man show, but I had some partners that were into like neo-soul music. So what we were trying to do was create a vibe, take it back to the Love Jones, and I because much of my subject matter is not as fire and brimstone as most poets can be. I wanted to actually create the atmosphere that I thought fit my poetry the best. And I wanted to have a safe space for writers to be on book, writers who are like experienced all levels of poetry, those slam experts. And, I wanted it to be a whole, atmosphere that was ready and open for everyone. So I used my creativity to partner with an establishment in Charlotte, and they allowed me to have 3 or 4 open mics, and one of which introduced me again to my former classmate, and we started seeing each other in short order after she saw what I was up to and into. And by that time, I guess I I had spoken my prophecy and had wrote my happy ending, because that poetry is kind of always, like I said, it always grounds me and steadies me. And that is the atmosphere in which I was, I was found and heard.
Okay. So poetry gave you another rib. Is that what you're saying?
It
Poetry gave
did.
you another rib.
It did. It did. It did.
Awesome. And then how can I know at the bottom of the screen we do have both your website
Mhm.
on scrolling as well as Amazon. So what is the preference though? I have a book on Amazon, but I generally prefer for people to get it from me.
Yeah.
So what is your preference in
My
terms of if
preference
someone would
right now is Amazon, but coming,
okay.
my book will be sold on magnificentbrotherspress.com. I am 1/3 partner of Magnificent Brothers Press with my twin brother and his family. And what we're doing is we're promoting a book that was authored by our older brother, who is doing a children's poetry book about his Morehouse experience called A Different House. And that book is pre-sale and available right now on the website. And we're going to be promoting that. And then I'm going to do an audio book of this book that will be out in June to commemorate the 1-year anniversary of After the Snap, and have some newer poems and some other features in there that I think will will help people who are dealing with, starting over. That's one of the book's dedications, is to those who have to start over. So that is my preference right now is pretty much, all of my communication going across the screen. And if you like a signed copy, email me and I will tell you how to get that. And you'll see my email address at the bottom of the screen.
When you said the book is really a shout out to those people who are starting over, the first thing that popped in my head was that song that's probably on somebody's record player, Starting All Over Again. It's going to
Yeah,
be rough and tough. Yeah, I don't even know
yeah.
who sings that song, but yes. But it's one of those oldies.
You've quoted some really good ones.
Yeah, if it's not on record, it might even be on 8-track somewhere. That is a take me back for sure. Some 8-track. I see records all the time, but I have not seen an 8-track in forever. My grandfather kept them for years, but he finally got rid of them.
Things are cyclical. You never know; they may come back.
They may come. Listen, I'm not trying to have to ride around forever. Back in the day, we had those old cars, and you would listen to the 8-track, and there was no way to fast forward. You just had to wait till your song came back around. Yeah, I don't want to go back.
Well, the phones are getting bigger, so maybe.
Yeah, you just never know. Well, Keon, it has been an absolute pleasure to hear your work from After the Snap, to learn more about your story, to hear how you wrote your own happy ending, and to see where you are now. And more importantly, to put a highlight, number one, as I said at the beginning of the show, on artists, on creatives, but also on the fact that art can heal. I was watching an episode. This is a different kind of art, but I was watching an episode of A Million Little Pieces this week, and I was amazed at how they use the platform of that show. And I won't spoil it in case anyone, maybe like me, and you record and you can't watch till the weekend. But I was amazed at how they use that platform of art to really deal with a very serious issue. And so kudos to you for putting together a collection to speak to those who may need to start over. And if we know anything, there are a lot of people who are starting over, particularly as a result of this pandemic. So thank you for sharing your words. Again, you can go to his website, magnificentbrotherspress.com. After the Snap is available on Amazon. And if you would like a signed copy, of course, let your fingers do the walking. Email him and he can let you know how to get a signed copy. Do you have any final words for us, Keon?
Well, if I could close with a poem, that'd be great.
Like to close with a poem, wrote it. Like to here you go. There we go. Go ahead and do that.
The Facebook post, one of my dear high school friends, don't get to see her as much anymore, But I definitely, heard something in the post, and I'll protect the innocent by leaving the names off. But she
Okay.
posted, "What do you do with love?"
Okay.
That was just a post. They had nothing else in it. It was just out there, and people were chiming in, dealing with it, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I took to poetry. I was like, that is a question. That is an age-old question. So I hope I at least answered it for myself and perhaps maybe someone else. So I'm gonna
Okay.
close with, what do you do with love? What is love? Why is love? How do you know when you find love? Unfortunately, love is the thing we are all seeking. Love is random. Its timing is undefeated. Just look at the chance meeting. Love isn't manufactured, therefore serving sizes varies. Love is weightless and heavy. Love should not be burdensome when carried. Love is light and shapeless, colorless, genderless, and varied. The pursuit makes sane people crazy, the restless weary. Love produces the sunshine to chase away the dreary. Love dries the eyes of the teary. To answer your question on what to do with love, one must examine, what have you learned from your past mistakes? What happened the last time your heart did break? How have you healed from the heartache? Is it time to trust again? Well, time it does take. But should love ever again be in your possession? Love is never malintentioned. Love has a short memory, like that of a goldfish. Love is always right on time. In fact, it will never miss. Love is not like revenge. It's not served until properly garnished. Love appears like the master when the pupil is ready. Love is hot and steamy and yields and pours steady until full. Love does not push or shove. Love is like gravity, it pulls. Love is never dull. Love is excitement and variety. Love is bravery. So to the question I retort, when asked about your missions report, how many loves does it take to make up a cohort? Love is such an individual sport. And I must admit, I can be a tad bit out of sorts. Love is not the boogeyman. When love does come, it will not scare. Love is a symphony of melody and choral crescendos of harmony, rhythm, and snare. Love is cotton candy and exciting food combinations like those found at the state fair. Love makes no promises, yet it's all compromise and dare. The bravest thing you can do is love unconditionally. Wouldn't you agree? What you can do with love is love wild and free.
Well, all right, now you got lots of people from Wilberforce University chiming in the comments to let you know that they are here and representing. Before I let you go, Edwin has a question for you. Was writing after the slap easy to do, or was it a challenge?
Living after the snap was the challenge. Writing it was easy.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. That makes sense. All right. Again, ladies and gentlemen, After the Snap, the latest book from Mr. Keon Furnace. You can get it on Amazon.com. Thank you so much for coming through on the Angela Ray Show
Thank
tonight.
you so much. I appreciate everything you do. You come highly regarded in this area. I just want you to know.
Okay. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Enjoy your Friday night with the Mrs.
I will. Thank you.
All right. Well, that is it for this first week back, season 2 of the Angela Ray Show. Thank you all so much for coming and showing out. We started the week off with My Black is Confident, and then we ended it with After the Snap. So I hope that some of the poetry that you've heard this week has resonated with you, has caused you to think, and more importantly, has maybe prompted you to think about how you can support independent and creative artists. Next week, we, for the first time, are going to one day a week. The Angela Ray Show will be on Wednesdays starting next week, one day a week at 8 p.m. So mark your calendars. Again, thank you all so much. As always, I would like to remind you of Ray of Motivation number 54, cleaning a mirror does not change the person who is reflected in it. Until next time, I encourage you all to go out and be the change. Have a great weekend.